Hello, my name is Finya. Welcome to a new video of mine. And today we'll be looking at all of the books I read in 2025. And I'm not just going to list them, but I'm going to put them into a ranking order. I've seen that on Sarah Caroli's video and I've just used her template. And I think it's a really fun idea, so I'm just going to do that. And if you've seen my TBR for 2026, you already know that that was not the best year I had for reading, but there were still some gems in that and some, not as known books that I want to talk about. And some that I completely forgot about until importing all the pictures for this video. So yeah, let's jump in. And the first book we have is Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. And you might know that I love Frederick Bachman, and this has been a reread for me because I've just love his writing and his stories so much, and I'm just gonna put them in Made My Year because I mean he did make my year. I could read that again now. I could literally read this series every year for the rest of my life and be completely happy with that. So yeah, this has been a journey. Next up is Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. And as you might see, there are some Cassandra Clare novels in here and short stories, because last year I had the urge to read her books again, because those books kind of really got me into reading when I was like 12, 13, 14. Those books and Harry Potter really, ignited my love for reading. And I just wanted to be in that world again. I don't even know what book that is in the Infernal Devices series, but I do think it's my favorite series out of them all. And I think about reading the entire Shadowhunter universe from front to back. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll make a video out of that, just revisiting this world and hoping maybe for someday to get a good adaptation because all of them are shit. So yeah, Clockwork Prince, that put that to, I don't know, it's like, did it make my year? Kind of, yeah, I love reading it. Yeah, it's just put in there. And I think let's do all the other Cassandra Clare books first. Those are some Magnus Bane short stories. And they're all, to be honest, forgot I read that because they're all really just okay in my opinion. I mean, I love the character of Magnus Bane, but I felt like those stories were super short, yes, but you can do a lot in a short story if it's well written. And I just forgot about those stories immediately. Yeah, we have Clockwork Angel. I cannot remember for the life of me which is the first one in that series, but let's just put them both here. Okay, so just Google it. Clockwork Angel is the first book and Clockwork Prince is the second one. And because it's a trilogy, I usually forgot when in the story one book ends and the other continues. So for me, they're just the same. So we'll just treat them the same in Made My Year because it was pretty fun. And Will Herondale was just one of my OG book boyfriends, and he kind of still is, I'm still rooting for him. I still love him, everything he says and does. I love it. Yeah, and another kind of teen throwback for me was Divergent. I've never read Divergent or like the entire series when I was younger. I only watched the movies. So I thought like maybe it's my time for dystopian teen romances, and I read Divergent. Yes, I did that. And that was actually satisfying. I did like and enjoy my time, but like I wouldn't recommend it nowadays to someone. I cannot think of one person who would be like, yeah, read Divergent immediately. It's a masterpiece, because there's so many things in that world building that are so lacking. And when you compare it to the Hunger Games, there's just not there. But I enjoyed my time, to be honest. And then I also read some short stories from the same author about For, the character. And, same here, same. It was nice, I think, to read them like immediately after reading Divergent to kind of get, his point of view for some of those scenes in the first book and then getting kind of his backstory. But it was just not that life-changing at all. So yeah, let's put them all in here. Something just fell in my room. Maybe it's a ghost. And then next on the list is To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I really hated this. I really didn't like it. I was, of course, on the Summer I Turned Pretty train, loved the TV show, read the books, as you will see later on. And then I thought, maybe we get the same vibe from this other series by the same author. But, I really did not like it. I mean, I was just not, was I annoyed with it? Yeah, actually it was, because that main character behaved like she was 8. I think it's like the opposite of when like 16-year-olds behave like they're 32. But yeah, I think that was more annoying. My opinion, I'm sorry. I really did not like that. I watched also the movie afterwards, and I also did not like that. So I think she was like a one-hit wonder with The Summer I Turned Pretty. I'm sorry. Then I read Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda. I've read that for work, and that was the second book I read by that author. So the book is about a young woman, Hazel, and she's moved away from her hometown 10 years ago and then comes back when her father dies, and she, to the surprise of all, inherits their house. And a lot of people find that very weird. And then at the same time, this drought happens and it's really hot, and there's a lake and the water levels are going down, and suddenly things appear. You know, it's a pretty classic introduction to this thriller, and lost things get returned, and we find out about the death of her father and some other people. And I think it was good, to be honest. Yeah, I forgot I read this. It was okay, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I think it's not really standing out. I've read worse thrillers or mystery thrillers, but yeah, it's not that life-changing at all. I liked her other book, The Last to Vanish, I think it was called. I like that more, which kind of plays in this mountainside, and it's really atmospheric and very good. But this one was kind of just meh for me. Okay, the next on the list we have Reckless from the Powerless series, which I think I've read the whole thing that year. And so yeah, let's take Powerless. I did like that. I enjoyed it. I think you could see that was a debut, but I did enjoy my time. I liked the banter. I liked the chemistry between the characters. It was quite fast-paced and very much the formula that I loved when I was like 14 years old. And apparently I still do. I don't know if I would recommend it necessarily. I think if someone kind of only reads fantasy romance, then yes, I think that is a must read. But to anyone else that does not really love that. So I think I just put it in recommend, because there are some people I would recommend this to. And then the other books I feel like were not that great. The second book was a lot of traveling, like going back and forth, like this cat and mouse game. And I cannot even tell you what the last book was about. So I would put them in good, but could be great. I think I also read this short story from like this other character called Adina, which was kind of her best friend, the main character's best friend. Did I put it in here? One pet peeve of mine is fantasy series where all the names match and are kind of the same, and you cannot really tell which book is which. Like with Harry Potter, I can, I know that Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is about that book with the Goblet of Fire in it. Reckless, Powerless, Fearless, it's all the same, and I cannot cope with that. So, and then we have the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. These books were so short. I remember I read the entire series on vacation, but not when I was actually there, but only on airports. Like I literally listened to the audiobooks and like read those books only on like 2.5 hour flights, 2 flights and like waiting time, because the books I feel like were like 6 hours long. And usually I listened to them at like twice the speed. So they were like each 3 hours or something. But I was glad they were so short, because they were not as good as the TV show. And that is a rare thing, because the TV show was unexpectedly so good. And I was so into it. And I even rewatched the first season because my brother was suddenly so interested. He's the kind of dude who's like, when I'm in the living room watching it, he's like standing at the side and like with his arms like this and looking at it and standing there way too long to be, not interested. So I started the entire series again with him, and we watched the entire thing, and we were just so giddy and laughing, and it was such a fun time. And then I read the books and I was kind of disappointed, to be honest. I think they were good. I think they're the perfect summer teen romance if you're like 15 years old and want to have this nice little romance. But yeah, I could have done without the books and only watched the TV show. So I will put them all in good, but could be great. And also the audiobooks being narrated by the actors of the show was chef's kiss. I love that. Then we have another mystery thriller called The Unwedding. I also read that for work. And I do remember the plot. It was about this woman who has recently divorced her husband. Oh no, they didn't even marry, I think. I think right before their wedding, they split up, but they had already booked this honeymoon and now she goes on it alone. So she is at this spa thingy, and then suddenly a murder happens and they're all locked into this retreat and have to figure out, you know, who did that and who's the murderer. And she's kind of like the one person who's so nosy, talking with everyone and, you know, trying to find out what's going on. And there's also this raging storm, so, you know, the police can't reach them. And yeah, it's kind of the secluded retreat murder mystery. It's not one of a kind, but I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed my time working on it, and I looked forward for work because I was working on this. So I would say I'd recommend this. Yeah, I would recommend this actually. I liked it. Then I have A Curse of True Love, which is the third book in what series? Something with a broken heart. I can't really remember, but I did read the series and then I stopped in the middle of this book at some point, and then months went by, and in 2025 I finally picked it up again and finished the series. And that was a bit confusing because there is this memory loss trope in that book, but obviously the reader has experienced all of what she has forgotten, but I also forgot because it's been such a long time, so I really need some time to get back into it. But I did enjoy the entire series. I loved the last book. I would recommend this, definitely. Of course I wouldn't recommend the third book, but you know what I mean. It's a super popular series, and I think it's definitely earned why it's so popular. There is the last book, actually. Yeah, I overlooked Powerful, and I do think that is the Adina short story, and I did like that. I would put it also in good, but could be great, because I love Adina as a character. I think her little romance story was really cute in this, and yeah, I enjoyed the time. I think it was short and quick and enjoyable, but nothing more than that. I couldn't tell you a lot what has happened in the story nowadays. Then I have David Baldacci, To Die For. Also read this for work. This is really this quick-paced action thriller thingy, similar to like movies like Die Hard or something. I think it's about this really young squad of soldiers having to do something. I don't know. I really don't know. I completely forgot I read this. Then we have Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes, and that is rare because it's a horror novel, but it was not too scary in my opinion. It's kind of this sci-fi world where this woman kind of needs a job and she starts to do security on this ship where nothing is on. Like, she's completely alone on this ship, but she has to do security because they have those cryo tanks on there, because in this sci-fi world, there were a lot of people who paid money for, if they die, to be put into those cryo tanks. So in the future, if the technology is there, they can wake up again. But that hasn't happened, and a lot of people kind of forgot about those people on there. And she does security, and obviously weird things happen, and it's quite scary, and she's alone. And it's kind of this one-person play, but it feels like it's not, because she's kind of talking through her boss, through like a comm system, but we only ever hear his voice. Then she's talking to those holograms and stuff. So yeah, it's essentially only her on this ship the entire time, like most of the time. But yeah, it feels quite alive and a lot of things are happening. So yeah, I really enjoyed reading this, but I also forgot about this entire thing. Actually, I would put in good, but could be great. I do remember some things from it that I really liked, and I had a good time. So then I have The Business Trip, and this is also a sort of mystery book, and it's about this young woman trying to get away from her abusive boyfriend, and she kind of takes on the life and the persona of someone else. So she steals someone's identity, and we kind of see both women's POV. I think that was how it is. Not too sure, but I do remember I liked it, but not that much. Not that much, but I mean, it was good. Then I read Silver Elite by Danny Francis, and I really did not like that. Also, I read that for work, so I was kind of forced into that. I really could have done without it. I don't think that I was annoyed with it. I mean, I really didn't like it, but I think it was fine. There are a lot of mediocre books like this in this genre, and it was kind of like a carbon copy of them all. And yeah, so it was just not really good, but it was also not horrible in my opinion. Then I read Evenings and Weekends for the Inklings book club by Jack Edwards. This was the first book, and I was like, yeah, I do want to be part of this book club and read this. But I don't know, I felt kind of weird reading this because everyone loved this and was like, this is a 5 stars, this is one of the best books I've ever read. And for me, it was good, but I usually did not really care to pick it up again after I've put it down. And I also don't think about it ever. And for me, it was just not that great. You know, when a lot of people love something and you just don't, well, like, maybe I just didn't understand it, but I do think I did, you know? But in my opinion, it was just okay. I mean, I did kind of like it, but it was just not that deep for me. I don't know. Maybe I would recommend this to people because I just know so many people love it. But if it wasn't that popular and I've read it just on my own, I was like, meh, yeah, it was okay. But I would not recommend it to a lot of people. But apparently there are so many that love this book. So yeah, I would recommend it. Then I've read Hot Young Royals, and this is this young adult, a little bit of romance novel, and I think it's perfect if you are in your royalty era, because she is this young girl and her parents die, I think. It kind of starts out with this tragedy, which is just brushed over super quickly. So she moves in with her super rich aunt and she sends her to this really royal, huge, rich school where she now goes to, and she kind of wants to be a part of this upper class. And her aunt also really wants her to be part of that. So she kind of lies a lot about, you know, how her life is and that she's also this superstar, which she obviously isn't, and that creates conflict, but it is a fun story. It's really fun if you just want a very quick-paced young adult novel about like the upper class and, you know, the glamour of it and the drama of it. So yeah, I really liked it. I think it was perfect for the moment, but yeah, I mean, it was not extraordinary or something like that. So yeah, I'll put it in good, but could be great. Then I read Brains and Balance by Rachel Barr, and Rachel Barr is a neuroscientist. I forgot really what her occupation is, but she, you know, treats the brain. And she is an influencer, I think, also, and she kind of makes videos about, you know, the brain and especially how you should treat your brain in the current time, which is super fast. And she kind of makes content about how to structure your day and your life to kind of give your brain a break and kind of work with, you know, what the world has to offer. And this book especially is about that. So it's a nonfiction book, and I really liked it because it really, for me, shone some light on a lot of things that I have already felt like, but I didn't really know how it worked. I really feel like it was good for my life. I learned something, and maybe I didn't necessarily change so many things, but I definitely have some tools in my toolbox now. So I would definitely recommend that. Oh, let's get to this big boy called Alchemized by Senlan Yu. This one I've actually also read for work, which is kind of insane to think about that I was paid to read Draco Hermione fanfiction. But yeah, I had a great time. I was editing the German audiobook for this, and it took ages, but it was still fun. I think everyone knows about this book, and apart from being long, I think it was interesting. I think it was great world building, like it was so immersive and so detailed, and I think she did a good job about kind of taking all of the Harry Potter elements out of it and making her own world. I don't think that I would guess that to be a Harry Potter fanfiction if I didn't know. And I've never read the original Manacled fanfiction, so I really couldn't tell from most characters like what people they were as like Harry Potter characters. And the whole like magic system was so original, so new. That was really cool about that. A lot of war, a lot of torture. So yeah, it was quite dark at times, and I do think that people should read the trigger warnings for that. And I think that most of the bad reviews this book got because they were expecting a very, you know, romance heavy book, where it's mostly a book about war, and it's a book about the casualties and the pain and suffering that comes with war. And she, our main character, Helena, is kind of in the middle of that and treats a lot of people who suffer. She herself is suffering a lot. So yeah, I think it was an interesting read. I don't think that I would finish it, actually, if, you know, I was just reading it for my own. I mean, I had to because it was being paid for that. Yeah, it was a wild ride, and I'm kind of grateful that I read the entire thing. But yeah, I don't know if I would recommend it. I think it's just so many things in there that would trigger people that I would have to like bring a checklist of things like, do you don't like that? Do you like this? Do you like this? Before I could even recommend it to people. But so many people love it, and I do get why. There were a lot of elements in there that were perfect. So actually, I would put it in recommend, just for the sake of not putting it in the lower tier because I do think it deserves more. But yeah, for me, it's not close to a 5-star or anything. Then I have The Ferryman and His Wife. I think it's from a Norwegian or Swedish author. Not entirely sure, but I enjoyed this. This is really, really short, and it's basically about a ferryman and his last day on Earth. And he knows that he's dying, and he basically in his head talks to the most important people in his life that he met and kind of reconnects with them, to his wife that has died before, to his dog that has died, to all the people that have moved him or he's moved them. And it was quite short. I expected more from it because when I read the premise, I thought for me it would be 4.5 stars at least, because I love those types of stories. And it did not give me that much in the end, or at least not the amount that I expected. But I would recommend it, especially because it's so short. Like you could read it in a couple of hours maximum. So if that type of story sounds appealing to you, like the dialogue with death and things coming to an end and kind of looking back on your life, that was really appealing to me. And if you like this sort of story, then this is definitely something you could look at. Then I read The Ministry of Time, which was super popular when it came out. And I read it because it was so popular and also because people recommended it to me. But I also, similar to Evenings and Weekends, did not enjoy it as much as everyone else. For me, I really liked the first half of the book, where it's a lot of slice of life, a lot of the modern world and their time clashing and kind of them learning how to adapt and how to move in this world, and really only like little snippets of their life together, which I really liked. But then the last 30% of the book suddenly turned into this spy action thriller, and it was such a big shift in vibes that I just did not enjoy that much. I loved the writing in it. At times, she loved her metaphors and stuff, and some of them were good, some of them were really cringe. But yeah, I have some quotes saved from this book, so I did, take something from it. Didn't like it as much as everyone else, so for me, it's an obvious good, but could be great. Okay, then quite similar vibe actually is Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. This is my first Thomas Mann I've ever read. I've read this one biography about him for work, and I was like, that is an interesting but not so nice man, actually. Like, I know a lot of stuff about his life and what he did. They're really not that great, and I would never want to meet this man if he was still alive. But he's such a big German author, and I felt like kind of guilty of never having read a book by him. So I was like, okay, I have to read a short but very popular book by Thomas Mann, and that was Death in Venice. And this is a story about a man going to Venice and kind of experiencing and coming to terms maybe with his own homosexuality. And I think it was interesting. It was like the writing style is very interesting, but not for me. I feel like the way he writes is so annoying to me. Like, he cannot end a sentence for the life of his. He will use 30 commas in a sentence. It will be going over multiple pages, and you will not know what was happening at the beginning of the sentence when you find eventually the end of it. So you kind of have to go back a lot and kind of, what was he even talking about? And he talked about so many things, and he's so much in his head, and probably makes a lot of very smart connections with philosophers and stuff happening around the time. But I did not really care for it. I think that the story itself was just not that interesting to me, and the way he wrote it was also not that interesting. So yeah, I could have done without it, to be honest. I did not forget about it. I kind of hoped that I would forget about it, but this really did not do a lot for me, and I was kind of disappointed. Then we have Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I've already talked about him. This is the first book in the trilogy, super popular. It's just phenomenal. I really could maybe say that this is my favorite book of all time at this point. And I've read it twice now, and twice I cried, I laughed, I had the best time, I couldn't put it down. And this reread made my year. He's just so good, and I want to read his entire bibliography, but at the same time I don't, because I want to keep having books by Frederick Bachman that I have yet to read. So yeah, I'm kind of in that space in between, because he's just phenomenal. Then I actually finally read Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Super popular, super short. It's such an aesthetic cover that I see on so many aesthetic Instagram posts and stuff. And it's been popular for years, and I did enjoy it, but I also did not like a lot of things in this book. I will put it in good, but could be great for now, because I do like the premise of it. It's such a cute premise, to kind of go back in time, but you can only be like in the same spot, and you have to get back before the coffee gets cold. And we have 4 stories, like 4 short stories in this book about different people doing that. And they all have their own, little packages and their own things that they want to resolve. But the way that they are resolved in this book are a bit not from this time. And I don't want to spoil the ending of, the stories, but I feel like the way they were resolved were a bit, patriarchal. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It didn't bother me that much when I was reading that, but after I thought about it, I was like, I did not like how he ended, all of those stories, really. There were a lot of like good and wholesome and cute things in that I really enjoyed. The writing style obviously is quite different from like American or British authors, or even German. So that was really interesting to kind of see how, the translation works and how different like the writing style is. I cannot even pinpoint what it is exactly, but you could tell that it was not written in English and it was just written in a different culture, and that was super interesting. But yeah, I think it was like cute and wholesome and short, but some things bothered me, and I do think it could or should have been better if you go by the popularity of this book. Then I've read These Violent Lights by Mika Nimerever, no idea. And this is not These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So different books, same title. I think it comes from a Shakespeare play. I remember reading this title in a play and I was like, oh, I know where you get it from. And this was really interesting. It's basically about those 2 men who are obsessed with each other, and they are very toxic about each other, like both of them, and they spiral in this obsession and commit really bad things. And that was really interesting. I think it was really well written. I think the ending was super smart and fantastic, and that was really good. At the same time, I could have put the book down and not pick it up again. That would have been fine for me, but I did finish it and I enjoyed it. I think it was a bit long. I don't really remember how long it was, but I do remember thinking, okay, this could have been cut out. But yeah, I really did enjoy it though. I think it also could have been great. I don't know who I would recommend it to. Maybe to people who really love dark academia and this, the vibe of toxic relationships and obsession and spiraling. If this really appeals to you, then definitely read this. If you don't normally read those sort of stories, then I also would not recommend it to you. And then we're 3 books down, and this one is called What You Can See From Here by Mariana Lecki. This is a German book, but it has also been translated, which I think is phenomenal because that was so good. A colleague of mine recommended this to me, and I was so grateful she did, because it was the cutest, most fantastic story ever. It's about this young girl, and we follow her over a couple of years, and she lives in this small town in the south of Germany, and her grandmother, I think, dreams of an okapi, and every time she dreams of an okapi, someone dies in the next 24 hours. And apparently that's happened before, but she dreams of one. And by the way, okapi is the last mammal I think we humans discovered. and it's the most funny looking animal in the world. I now love okapis because of this book. And we basically follow this young girl and her family and her friends over a couple of years. And it was so moving. It was so heartbreaking at times. And I teared up, I laughed, I cried. I sent a lot of passages from that to my parents, to my brother, to friends of mine, because I just feel like her writing was so wholesome and so tear-jerking, and it was so good. I think everyone should read the story. It's just phenomenal. Maybe it's just me, maybe I am just a huge fan of this. Yeah, and I've also listened to the audiobook, and that is narrated by Sandra Hüller, which is a German actress, and you might have seen her in Anatomy of a Fall or The Zone of Interest, two phenomenal movies with her in the main role. And she perfectly hits like the tone of the book. Her voice and her rhythm just fits the story so well. So I enjoyed my entire experience with this book, and I'm so grateful someone recommended it to me. So yes, that's what I'm doing right now. Obviously, a very clear made my year. Then I've also read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. She and her books have been on my radar, of course, she's everywhere. And I really only read it because now the movie adaptation is coming out, and I was like, you know, I love to read a book and then watch a movie adaptation, so maybe that's the time. And actually, that was so good. I finished this in like 2 sittings. So I started it in the evening and then finished it the morning after. And I couldn't put it down. It was so good, like plot twist after plot twist in the end. I feel like it was so addicting. It's exactly what people have been telling me about this author. And I feel like a lot of people use it when they are in a slump or they want to get into reading again. And I feel like she's perfect for that because you will not be able to put her books down. They're super fast, super easy to read, and you just have a great time with them. If you like mystery or like thrillers, even myself, who does not read a lot of mystery thrillers, I really like this. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's not like close to 5 stars for me, but I would definitely recommend this to basically anyone. So yeah, I really, really liked it. And then the last book on my list is Thief of Night by Holly Black. This I've read for work, and it's the second part in a dialogy. The first one is called Book of Night. And yeah, I haven't read the first book, so then I read the second one, and I did not really understand a lot that was going on. I then tried to start reading Book of Night, but I liked page 20. I was like, yeah, I'm really not that interested. Because I feel like the world building and the fantasy in this was quite intriguing, but it took me like half the book to even remotely understand what's going on. And it was just not enough for me. There was not enough love there to then read the first one and maybe even reread the second one to actually understand it. So yeah, where should I put it? I cannot recommend it because like I didn't understand most of it. So yeah, I kind of could have done without it. Yeah, I mean, I could have done without it because I didn't read the first book. It's kind of self-explanatory. But yeah, I mean, it was probably great if you've read the first one first. But yeah, that's just, you know, the sad truth of reading some works, not for myself, but because I have to read them. Yeah. And that was my entire year of 2025, minus the rest of the German books I've read for work. And yeah, it looks kind of top, or like middle heavy actually. I have like 5 books and made my year, not one book in close to a 5 stars. Yeah, and then a lot of books in the middle, but also not a lot of books that I'm really annoyed with. So that's great. Only one book and then a couple I could have done without. So thinking back on my year, this definitely makes sense because, you know, as I said, it was not the best year of reading for me. And this year, I really want to try to read books where I actually feel like I will love them. Because in the past, I've been reading a lot of books like Ministry of Time, for example, or Evenings and Weekends, where the premise itself does not really speak to me that much, or like even like the first 20, 30 pages of reading are not super enjoyable for me, but I just want to finish them because they're so popular and I want to have read them or like know what they're about so I can talk about them. And this year I really want to focus on books that really feel like me and my reading taste and really find out what actually I like and love. That has been my year of reading in 2025 ranked, and I hope you like this video and we see each other in the next one. Bye!